We are now recording. We should be. Let me just double check. Yes. Okay. We are now recording, and we'll go ahead and get started in a timely fashion. We'd like to welcome you from the UK. Ruth is in the UK, and I'm welcoming you from the US. And to everyone around the world, as we just heard, we have people from Spain and Nigeria and London, all points of the world. Ruth and I were inspired to run this series of events because we see a theme of a lack of confidence with our clients. And we wanted to try something new to empower women, and tying it to International Women's Day seemed like a great idea. So we hope you agree, and we thank you for being here today. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we jump into the material. First of all, this is being recorded, and we will send you a copy of the recording by email afterwards. We've muted you upon entry, as I mentioned. You're welcome to unmute yourself if you're in a quiet area. And you're also welcome to type questions or comments in the chat box. And we do want this to be a conversation, not just between Ruth and I, but between all of us. So please feel free to chime in when you have reactions, comments, or things to add. If you write to everyone, that's the most helpful way to chat, because then Ruth and I can both see it. But if you have something that you don't want your name tied to, feel free to write to the host, that would be me, and I can just read it out loud without sharing your information. Ruth and I will converse and ask each other questions, and then we'll pause at points to hear from you as well. Let's get started officially. I'm going to start giving my background. Ruth will give her background a little bit, and then we'll jump into the topic. So my background includes human resources, training, workforce development, and career advising, and I've helped thousands of people on their career journey. To be honest, I don't want to take much time right now to go into my official qualifications, but if you go to paulabrand.com and click on About Me, they're all listed there, my certification.
Yeah, and my name is Ruth Winden, and I must say, the careers field is an exciting place to be, and I've been in it since 1994, which makes me feel rather old. But I mean, even after 24 years, you know, it's still exciting, evolving, fast-paced, and the best thing is that you get the chance to partner with some fabulous clients from all over the world. And like Paula, you know, I have my own career consultancy, Careers Enhanced, and I work with organizations, but also with individuals. And you know, in many ways, it's helping them, you know, make good career decisions, attract career opportunities, and then position themselves strongly during their job search. And what I found is, and what Paula found, was that however senior and experienced our clients are, confidence always comes up, and that made us really think, you know, this is a fantastic topic, and this is the topic for all three, the overarching topic for all three webinars that, or conversations that we're holding in March.
Okay, Ruth, I think Paula has gone off. I think she's restarted. You know, so she stopped sharing the screen.
Okay. Well, it means, wow, it could be.
So Valerie is the host at the moment.
Valerie is the host. Oh, wonderful. Well, welcome, Valerie, to hosting. You know, this weather is really making, I think Paula's back. Paula, are you back?
Yes, I think she hasn't got the microphone yet.
Okay. Isn't this wonderful? You always worry, will technology actually work? But we'll make it work. And maybe while we wait for Paula, I'll just say a little bit about the topic. I mean, as I said, you know, I work with some very successful people, and even they, whether they're men or women, you know, sooner or later, the topic of confidence always comes up. And so we wanted to share three different aspects of you know, what can you do about growing your own confidence. And so this is how we then decided to have three different sessions with three different topics. Next week I'm leading on mentoring. That's one of my specialisms. And then Paula will lead, the third session will be about how to negotiate. And I think that's an incredibly interesting topic, because the more confident you are, I think the better you negotiate, and, you know, the more you achieve for yourself. So I think what I'll do, I won't wait for Paula because I just don't want to keep you long and wait for her to come back. I think I'll just start with a topic, and this is really about how can we build confidence for ourselves. And one thing that we definitely wanted to share is, which is tip one, we get the slides so you can see it even at the end, even if Paula can't come back on and show us the slides. And the first one was, it's about recording your accomplishments. And this is something that I find with my clients all the time, you know, when we start to look at their LinkedIn profiles, or, you know, how they present themselves, or how we write the CV, or, you know, it comes all the time when I ask them, okay, tell me about, you know, what have you done? What have you achieved? And you obviously have to be very clear about the outcomes and the results that you produce. And then when I start asking my clients questions, very often they say, I cannot remember. And that is really bad news, because if you can't remember what you've achieved in the past, then it makes it very hard to bring it together and present that to, you know, colleagues, people in your networks, or people, you know, you might want to see you come in and present yourself and have an interview. So what, one way to record your accomplishments, you know, people think it's really complicated, but actually it is pretty simple. The first thing we would recommend is that you save all positive feedback, whether that's emails or letters or recommendations. Just be sure that you save that in a place that you can always access. I mean, I have the tendency, I like to have things in paper. I'm quite old-fashioned. Yes, I have some things on my computer, but I actually have a Lever Arch file where I print everything up and stick it in there. And I'm now, I think, on my 4th Lever Arch file I've collated over the years, but I've been around for a long time in careers. But, you know, just make sure you save it and put it into a filing system, and not an employer's filing system, because if you ever leave, you know, you want to just make sure it's yours and you always have access, so do it on your home system. Same goes for performance evaluations, and then review them from time to time. And I think Paula is coming back, but I cannot hear her yet. Paula, are you coming back?
She has to unmute herself first.
Yeah, I know, Michael, you are very good at these things. All the things that you do for career thought leaders, you know, you're a pro at this. And I think Paul is just trying to find a way around it. Okay, I can hear you now, but we cannot hear you. So Paula has to sort out her technology. No, we can't hear you yet, Paula. So Paula was also, you know, talking about the point, when you record your accomplishments, make sure that you always have access to the data. Yes, we can see your screen, Paula, but we can't hear you. Okay. Here she is. All I want now for Paula to come back and talk to us. Yes. Hello?
No, she has to unmute herself.
Right, I'll just write that in there. Unmute yourself, Paula. You are a very patient audience, I must say. Let's see.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That was so stressful. We lost power twice.
Oh my word. Okay.
Yes. And so the modem went out.
Okay. But
I could hear a lot of what you were saying.
Okay, Paula, because that was your point. What do you add to that?
Well, I couldn't hear exactly what you said. So I think, let me just double check. I think I heard you talking about recording the accomplishments.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And did you make the point that it's always important to keep them in a safe place, because a place you always have access to?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then recording them in real time. Did you talk about that?
No. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is basically when you have access to the data to record your accomplishments, it's much easier to do when you're in the place where you have access to the data. Meaning, if you have, if you're trying to record accomplishments like you increase sales, or you decrease the time, or you increase the number of customers, when you're at work in those roles, you have access to all that data. So it's important to collect it while you're there, because when you leave the job, or 2 years from now, you're going to have to guess, oh, maybe I increased it 50%, maybe it was 70%, I'm not really sure. Yeah. And so, so it's really important to do. Real time means two things. One is getting the data while you're actually in a position to have access to it. And secondly is just recording it when it's fresh in your memory. Because as we all know, the longer time passes, the more likely you'll forget. So I would suggest making it an annual ritual, that each year, when you're looking at your goals for the future year, make sure to record the things that you did in the past year, and write data, quantify it as well as you can at that moment. And did you make the point, Ruth, about professional versus personal accomplishments?
No, I haven't got to that. I mean, I think, can I just add one thing to what you said? I think it's really important that, you know, when we use this information, we use it, you know, to see, wow, you know, this is what I have achieved, but also it's about collating this and showing this on your marketing documents. And, you know, it's serious stuff, because if you put the wrong figures on your CV, or you can't remember and you exaggerate, you know, you will get found out. I mean, this is really important evidence that you need to provide, and it has to be precise. And I think that's, for me, always the, you know, I'm very strict with my clients. You know, we're not putting anything on that CV or that LinkedIn profile that you cannot verify, because they might get challenged. And if they say, oh, well, you know, okay, it wasn't 5 million, it was 3 million, you know, they've already talked themselves out of a job. So that's why I think I can't stress enough how important it is to have precise, concise, and real data.
Excellent. Yeah, good point. I just have one more quick point, and then we can move on and ask if the audience, and feel free, everyone in the audience, to add in the chat box if you have other ideas of ways to record your accomplishments that you've tried and work well. And thank you, Ruth, for pitching in and taking over unexpectedly. Just my last 2 points were that you might want to focus more on professional accomplishments, but personal accomplishments are also important. You may have done things like run a marathon, or I know Ruth hiked the Grand Canyon last year. You could have organized events like, you know, an 80th birthday or a 50th anniversary, or you might volunteer in places where you're raising money or making a big impact. So don't look at just at work. And don't forget to look at your accomplishments from time to time, especially when you need a boost. It's a great way to boost your confidence if you're feeling down for whatever reason, to have all these records in one place. And I've definitely seen it work for myself and other people, that if you have it recorded somewhere, your accomplishments, a place that you can peruse them when you're feeling not as confident, it definitely boosts your confidence.
So Paula, I have a question to that. When would you actually publish or demonstrate your personal achievements? Would you also do that at a professional level?
It depends, because if you were going for a job as an event organizer, I think that organizing personal events would also be applicable. And I think even something like running a marathon, even though it's personal, I think it has professional applications, because it would show that you're disciplined, that you can set goals and achieve them, and probably that you're healthy and fit, and all those things would be valuable to an employer. So I think it depends on the position. If I was going for an accounting position, I probably wouldn't bring up things that are more event organizing, but I might bring up that I've raised funds and been the treasurer for a nonprofit on a volunteer basis. And maybe you brought them up to today's technology with their bookkeeping and things like that. So I think it depends. But I think the more you can tie the personal accomplishments to the related work you're trying to do, the better.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. And would you go like 10 years back, or what would be the time where you would then eliminate these accomplishments?
I would never eliminate them. One thing I meant to mention is I would just keep a running document in Word or something that you find easy to use. And I personally do that. I have a list of, sometimes it's duties, but sometimes it's accomplishments or a mix of places I've worked, things I've done. And really, I would never delete it. I always say keep all your old resumes, because you never know when one bullet point's going to come in handy in the future. And really, all your accomplishments, I mean, even when you're 80, it will be great to look and see the legacy that you've left. So I would say never delete them, personally. Okay. Looks like we have a comment in from Valerie. She's sharing, if you're feeling low in confidence, sometimes force yourself to write the achievements column rather than just in the what did I do wrong column. I agree. Focus on the positives. It can help to make a deal with yourself. You can only write one thing to improve if you've written one thing you've achieved. I like that. Thank you, Valerie.
And something that made me think what Micah said, more and more organizations are very keen to establish, are you a good cultural fit for us? And I think your personal accomplishments can sometimes show the shared values even better than at work. So for instance, the fact that I did last year this charity trek, and I fundraised for a whole year, I would bring that up if I thought it would show the kind of value I have, or the fact that I can multitask, or the fact that I can achieve things also in my private life, that I don't spend every evening in front of the TV, this kind of stuff, where you bring something across that you can't necessarily, show so much with work accomplishments. And I think people are always interested, not just in you as a profession, but also a person. The problem is if people have too many personal examples and ideas and not enough profession. But if the majority is professional and you bring in one or two personal ones that fit, the requirements are and show something that is essential for the job, then I think you can, there are many ways where you can bring that in, and I think that will be very welcome.
I agree with everything Ruth just said. Focus as much on the professional as you can for when it relate it to the job as much as you can. Mm-hmm. But if you've been out of the workforce for 10 years for whatever reason, for elder care or to raise children, you might have to draw more on personal accomplishments, but they still will have transferable skills in them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Ruth, if it's okay with you, let's move on, because I'm looking at the time and we lost some minutes with losing the power. Is that okay with you, Ruth?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't see any more in the chat box at the moment. So let's move on to getting feedback. And let me ask you, what are some suggestions you have, some ways to seek out feedback, why you would do it, and how you might do it?
Yeah, I think the seeking out feedback is a really simple thing to do, but a very important one. And I think that, we're so close to ourselves and we always think, oh, everyone is the same. And I think the confidence piece is a lot about recognizing who we are, what do we bring, and often, how are we different? So what makes us different from others? And recognizing that is a wonderful thing and a real confidence booster. But it's very hard to do by yourself. And so I would always suggest start with a very simple way. For instance, I would start actually, what you said, Paula, in terms of, collating your accomplishments. It's a lot about other people, or, the emails other people, or clients, senders, or customers, or suppliers, that is already feedback. And I would start with looking at those things that you've collated, the evidence, and look at, okay, what are patterns, what themes emerge. To give you an example, when I looked at that, a lot of people said to me, you're so international. And it never occurred to me because I've always been internationally minded. I've lived in different countries. So for me, that is just such a normal thing. It didn't even occur to me that was something that was special or different about me. But when other people started mentioning it to me, that's when I realized, whoops, that's what other people recognize. So maybe I need to pay attention to that. And that gave me confidence. Oh, I'm actually international. Yes, of course I am. But I hadn't noticed it as much because I took it for granted. So looking at the feedback that you're getting and what themes are emerging. And I would say, look at, what are sort of the top 5 things that come out most, that get mentioned most frequently. That's a very simple way. And then I would be brave and confident and go out and talk to people. And a really easy way, and to build the confidence, I would go not to my biggest critics, but I would go to the people who they know me well, they appreciate what I do, and I ask them, okay, which 3 words would you just use to describe me? I sometimes ask at an interview, which 3 words would your colleagues use to describe you? And most people are really stumped by that, but you need to know it. So which 3 words would you use to describe me? And you go to your boss, you go to your colleagues, you go to your team, maybe even your boss's boss, go to your mentor, ask friends and see what do they say. And then if you want to take it further, a more sophisticated tool is you might have heard of the Reach Branding 360. There is a system there where you can invite people onto a system where they can give you detailed and anonymous feedback. And it's a certain process. They ask the people to feedback on attributes and certain elements of what makes you professional. And because it's anonymous, people are very, very honest, because you cannot find out who it was. And in many ways, I think that's really interesting, because people will give you a more well-rounded view, probably also point out some things, but they will be very honest with you. And then you collate that, you get that in a report, and that gives you a fantastic overview of how people regard you, what your reputation is. And I think that's a fantastic thing to do. And we've got that in the resources if you're interested. And I think the very basic version, which is absolutely fine, is actually free for up to 20 people. So, getting feedback like that from 20 people is a really fantastic starter.
Yes, Ruth, I actually just took that survey and got my report this week. Yes, so I was very excited, and it's got some really very good feedback. So I really recommend that tool, and it has worked very good for me.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I've done it many times over the years. I do it every couple of years, and I always love doing it. And then maybe there's one more in-depth, in-person way to do it, and that is go to your boss, go to your colleagues, go to your customers and say, how would you describe my contribution at work? How do I show up? Or what springs to mind when you hear my name? And you just have to prepare to take it in your stride. And it's often really interesting what people say. And I bet it's often not necessarily what you expect. But I can tell you, people see you, they see you in action, and they will have a certain view of you. And all that is really, really important. And there's nothing nicer than, getting that feedback. And it is very confidence building.
It is. I agree, Ruth. I'm happy to share. I've also done the 360 a couple of times in the past few years, and I'm happy to share my experience. But before I do that, let's just see if anyone else has any comments to chime in, either through the chat box or by unmuting yourself.
So how do you seek feedback from others? Any suggestions? Oh, Valerie has one here. Johari Window. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I've never heard of that one. Valerie, do you mind sharing a little bit more?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, Ruth and Paula. Nice to be on the call. Johari Window. I'll find the link in a minute and I can put it in the chat box.
Okay.
I think it's kind of a nice halfway house. It goes from Ruth's very good idea of just asking people for keywords and not quite the sort of full-on 360. It's a very simple platform, and you can send it to a number of people, and they just pick some from a whole list of words. They pick their top 5 to describe you, and you have to start off by picking the top 5 words yourself that you think describe you. And so the idea is that what you come out with, I think this is what Johari Window means, is you come out with, the things you know about yourself that others don't know about you, but then there are the things that others know of you that you don't know of yourself, and you get that sort of both sides of the window. And it's really interesting. I've done it a few times, and I'm always astonished by the words that people choose for me. And it can give you a real boost and make you realize that, as Ruth said, you're sometimes taking for granted some of the things that you do and some of the ways that you are, but other people see those as quite special. So that's just a useful basic platform to use.
Oh, I need to revisit that. I used to run this in training events years ago, and it's one of these classics. It's just so reliable. It always works, but it reminds me I need to go back to that. Thank you for that, Valerie.
Yeah, thanks. And I would agree with my experience. Just a quick quick story that when I've done the 360 in the past, I realized when I got cut off, I never finished my bio. One of the things in my bio I was going to share, a fun fact, was that I love to travel, and I've traveled to 25 countries and 5 continents. And but in the Reach 360, it's similar to the Johari window. People have to pick words, and I've noticed the first 2 times I've done it, no one picked the word global or international or anything related to that. And I realized it's because I don't really tell people about my travels. In 2003, my husband and I took off a year and traveled to many countries in 1 year. And, but I don't usually bring that up because it's more personal than professional. And then I've realized that it is important to bring it up because how would people know I'm international if I don't share it, right? And so I'm hoping that the next time I do the Reach that I see a difference, because in the time that I did the last one, which was maybe 2 years ago, I've been consulting at the World Bank. And I think even just associating myself with the World Bank has helped people see me on a more global scale. And then also doing events like this that are international. But it is interesting because to me, it's such a big part of me, kind of like you were saying, Ruth. And with Ruth, people saw it in you, but you didn't acknowledge it or see it yourself. With me, I see it, but I'm like, why doesn't anyone else see it? So it can kind of go both ways. Thanks for sharing the link, Valerie, to Johari Window. It sounds like it works very similar to 360, the 360 Reach.
Yeah. And I think what you said, Paula, also makes me think we actually have a responsibility maybe also to share with people a little bit more about ourselves, because how would they know otherwise? I mean, with me, it's very easy. People think, oh, what's that accent? Where are you from? You know, because I'm neither British nor American. I'm German, you know, and I have that accent. And so people already know you're not from here. So who are you then? And a little bit easier. Great. Shall we move on to the third one? Build.
I think that'd be great, Ruth.
Yeah, I mean, Paula, I know you have very strong ideas why building a strong network is good for your professional confidence. Can you tell us a bit more about that one?
Sure. And I think I'm going to start with 2 sayings that are very applicable to building a strong network. One is that you're a combination of the 5 people closest to you. So I think it is important to choose your inner circle wisely and make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people you trust, respect, and who are positive and value you. There's also another saying, dig your well before you're thirsty. I've seen too many people wait to build their network until they're forced to, for whatever reason. And I think it's important to always be building your network, always be open and curious to new connections. And I'd like to give us an example how we met, Ruth, but I'm not sure if you shared that when I was offline.
No.
Okay, so Ruth and I met at the Career Thought Leaders Conference in 2010, and we just happened to meet and hit it off. And year by year, we would see each other at that same conference. So, you know, we were open to and curious, and we met each other, and we've kept the connection going. It's not like we see each other all the time because we live in different countries, but over time, trust developed, and we realized we have a shared purpose, which is empowering professional women. And so that led us to decide to collaborate on this project. So it's just trying to illustrating that you never know where things will lead and how powerful that can be. I'd like to mention a couple of other things. One is diversifying your network is important. To build a strong network, it needs to be diverse. And diverse can be whether it's the gender, the ethnicity, the different people from different industries, people from different career paths. Because if everyone that I know is also a career counselor in Washington, D.C., my network is not very diverse. And eventually you just start stumbling over the same people because it's not, you know, you're not expanding the layers of the onion. I usually like to say the core of the onion is your inner circle, but that's not usually where the magic happens. The magic usually happens in the outer layers. But you have to work through the people you do know to get the people to the people you don't know yet, and also being strategic, diversifying in strategy in terms of who's someone I really need to get to know, but I don't know anyone who knows this person, but this person would be really good for me to know, and how can I get on their radar? Maybe by connecting with them on social media, on LinkedIn, sharing their tweets, sharing their LinkedIn posts, things like that. So diversity, I think, is one of my key points to building a strong network. Another point to that would be that Lean In and McKinsey and Company conducted a study and it was looking more at females and leadership, but it found that women are 3 times more likely to rely on a network that is mostly female. And this could be an issue. And honestly, I feel guilty of this too, Ruth. Most of the people in our profession are females. So a lot of my network is filled with females. And so it's incumbent upon me to make sure that I break out and try to go beyond career counselors and that. But in terms of the McKinsey study, it was, they were looking at it in terms of moving into leadership roles, because as we all know, there's less women in leadership roles than men. And so if you were only surrounding yourself by other women, you might be limiting some of the access you have to people in higher level positions. And so I think you need to gain access to leadership. You have to get to know the leadership. And so that's another way of looking at it strategically, not just who do I know, but who do I need to get to know, or who do I need to make sure they know me.
Tell me, I mean, do you see then the connection with the confidence piece, that whatever happens in life, if you have a strong network, you've got support, and is that the link with the confidence? Or
it is, yep. And that was exactly, thank you. My last point was that exactly that when you have a strong network, when you're in down times and feeling less confident, your network can bring you back. They can give you support and help you get back on track, and remind you of all the great things that you've done and what a great person you are. And even in good times, they can help you achieve your goals, and probably help you achieve higher goals than you even would have planned for yourself. So yeah, so I think it ties to confidence, because your network becomes your support in good and bad times. And so,
really, isn't it? Yeah, excellent.
Does anyone in the audience have anything to share through the chat or verbally to add about how your network can help build your confidence? Well, one way to build a good network is to find mentors. And that's actually our 4th tip. So I want to just mention that we're doing a series of 3 career conversations here. And the next one, which is next Friday at the same time, Ruth will be leading one that's devoted only to mentoring. And so we're going to get a lot deeper into it. But for today, if you could share, Ruth, some quick and practical tips that can get people moving on finding a mentor and adding mentoring to their lives.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the wonderful thing about mentoring and confidence is that you actually, as a mentee, so when you work with someone who is your mentor, you have that full attention and the support and the insights from someone who's often more experienced or more senior, and they help you achieve your goals. And getting that mentor's perspective, I think, is absolutely superb, because often, it's a longer relationship. Often it can take 6 months, or sometimes even 12 months. And so the mentor and you get to know each other really well. And whenever I've been a mentor or a mentee, the outcome is always that you become so much clearer on how brilliant you actually are, because your mentor will remind you of that. We're all brilliant in many different ways, and the mentor will find that and see that and remind you and point that out. And especially when you tackle a big new challenge and you get cold feet and you think, oh, I don't know how to do this, the mentor will come in and say, but you know what? Remember, we discussed this and this, and you did all these wonderful things, and what can help you move forward. So that is, I think, one of the big links between mentoring and confidence. Also, I think there's an interesting dynamic. I think mentoring makes you step up, because, I think it's your professional pride. You've got someone who gives you a lot of attention, a lot of support, and you don't really want to let them down. So when you tackle your goals, I mean, I find that in myself, I try a lot harder to probably impress my mentor, because I don't want to let them down, and I want to show I can do this. And so it's like this self-perpetuating, because you get a lot of support. They tell you how wonderful you are or what you need to work on, so they're even more wonderful. And then you put all the stops out to achieve the things that you want to achieve through mentoring, which again increases the confidence. Because I think with the mentoring and or the confidence, it does come from doing things and getting experience and tackling those challenges. And it doesn't come from thinking about it. And I think that's where the beauty of mentoring lies, that you are challenged to stretch yourself and go out there. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter, because you've learned from it and you've got your mentor as support to work you through it. And I think it's a wonderful tool to develop confidence. And we'll talk more about that next week. Also, how to find a really good mentor who challenges you, and you might be surprised about some of the things I've got to say, because it might not be what you expect when it comes to mentoring. I know that Valerie, you've just mentored as well in the UK association where we both are, the Career Development Institute. And is anyone there? Would you want to share something about mentoring and confidence? Experiences?
Ruth, I thank you for that, and I completely agree with what you've been saying about mentoring. I have to say that the confidence also goes both ways, and I've been, like Ruth, a mentor for somebody in our professional association, and I think that my confidence has been boosted by being a mentor, because the person that I'm mentoring is someone who's quite new to our profession of career coaching, and it's incredibly, an incredible privilege that somebody sort of looks up to me in that way and is interested in my views and takes seriously the experiences that I've had over the past, I have to say, nearly 30 years of working in this area, even longer than you, Ruth. So I think that it's a two-way thing. So in fact, you can look for ways to increase your confidence by offering to be a mentor, as well as being on the other end. So that's just another angle on it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And I also think it's a wonderful point, because most people think, oh, can I really approach someone? But, I'm taking up all their time. And I keep saying, actually, you know what? The mentors gain as much as you do from the process, not more. So you might even do them a favor by asking, So we'll talk about that more next week. But thank you for stepping in, Valerie.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Valerie, because I totally agree with you. Whether you're a mentor or a mentee, I think both people gain from the experience.
And any other experiences of mentoring and confidence? Anything that you've tried, or any questions about it? Or you save your question for next time, because we have a whole session.
That's true. That's true. And we are getting
to the
little close towards the end. I can move to the next slide as we wrap up with number 5 of negotiating salary, just to share some of the resources.
Yeah, Paula, it's your point, the negotiation, and what have you got in store for us there as some good points of what we can do?
Sure. So again, the third of this series on March 16th will be solely devoted to this topic of negotiating salary. But for today, I do just want to talk about a few things that can help increase your confidence when it comes to negotiating salary. And as you can see on the slide here, we give some places to get salary data, because that is really an important part of your preparing. I'd say the biggest tip for negotiating salary is to prepare, and preparing will undoubtedly increase your confidence when you go in. And I can speak from personal experience, but also from seeing it work with clients. The more prepared you are, the more confident you're going to be going into that conversation. And I'd say the 3 things that you need to be prepared would be knowing what the market rate is for the type of work that you do and your level of experience. And there's tons of public information out there that's free. Of course, there are salary surveys that certain industries do, but that's usually costs money, unless sometimes you go to a library, and sometimes you can get that type of information free. But online, you have salary.com, glassdoor.com. Ruth mentioned payscale.com, because it has international pay scales. The other 2 I'd say are mainly based in the US. And then, of course, LinkedIn has gotten in on this action. I think LinkedIn's data is pretty weak at the moment, because it's depending on people revealing their own salary. And I think that's probably going to take some time. And they've only rolled it out in the past year or so. So I think over time, LinkedIn salary can become more powerful. but right now it's sort of in the early phases. So you have to know what the market rate is. And then the second thing is you have to know what you bring to the table. And this is actually where recording your accomplishments ties back in, because it's hard to prove that you're worth it if you can't come up with the proof. And so recording those accomplishments all along makes it much easier to prepare for this salary conversation. And it gives you confidence because you realize, again, yeah, that's right, I've done this and I've done that. And yeah, of course I'm worth this. So it helps you in that way. And then knowing what you want, because a lot of times people want more, but they can't define what more is. More could be more money, but it could also be getting to work remotely one day a week, or getting time off to raise your kids, or things like that. So it's not only always about money. Negotiating, I would call it negotiating salary, but also negotiating workplace benefits is certainly part of that conversation. And so you really have to know what you want. And again, that will increase your confidence, because if you know what you're worth, and you know what your value is, and you know what the market rate is, and you know what you want, those three pieces should get you through a salary negotiation with confidence. And of course, practicing the words that you're going to say, and practicing with another person before you go into the real conversation with the employer or whoever is you're negotiating with will also be helpful.
And as women, as women, I mean, there's a huge debate in the UK at the moment in terms of gender pay gap, because more and more information has come out, from the BBC to big companies, small companies, how massive the difference is between what men earn and women earn for exactly the same job. And so there is a lot of debate and government activity as well. So, because the tendency is, we earn a lot less for the same jobs. And so for women, it is absolutely crucial that we nail this one and ask for more and put more pressure on. And Valerie's saying, in the spirit of International Women's Day, is there something that women need to do to help get better pay equality? I mean,
yeah. I think they need to ask.
Yes.
I think I read a book called Women Don't Ask, and it's all about the fact that most women don't even try to negotiate. There's study after study showing that in general, a man gets offered a salary and their natural tendency is to try to negotiate, even if they like the salary. And women's tendency is to say, okay, great, and accept the offer. So I think that women need to ask more in order to bring up the pay equality. I think if we don't ask, it's not going to magically come to us.
So there are really two sides, aren't there? There is, on the one hand, what we as individual women do, how we prepare, and how we negotiate, and that we negotiate in the first place, and don't stop too early, make a real business case, and just expect to get more, because the first offer, we know that the first offer is never the best. But then there's also the institutional side of it, because I'm sure some very high-flying women found out they get half of BBC presenters half of what their colleagues get, and I mean, we're talking about serious amounts of money here, and they're savvy, and they have probably no idea that their male colleagues got twice as much, and so it's a real institutional challenges. So if that need to be tackled, and that is very hard for women on their own to do. But at least in the UK, we're having a serious debate, and I'm looking forward to seeing some real figures. And it's an embarrassment, because let's not forget, it's about employer branding, and employers need to do their best to attract good people, and they want diversity, they want good women, but then they have to pay them the same. Right. I take the point, Valerie. I don't think we negotiate as well as the men, and we need to change that. Absolutely.
Although I have to say, Ruth, I have read some studies that say that when we do negotiate, we actually do as well. Or we do well. It's just that we don't naturally think to even try.
Okay.
So that is some hope there. Looking at the time, I just want to go to the next slide to just mention there's a couple of books here that Ruth highly recommends, The Everyday Confidence, and Brene Brown's books. And so those are some resources here. And of course, we are going to send you the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to have these links. And then I'm just going to leave the last slide there so people know how to get a hold of us. But I do want to thank everyone for attending today, and thanks for your input, everyone who shared their stories and their questions. It really helps make it more of a conversation, so I appreciate that. For those of you who didn't share anything, I hope that you got something from it. And I will get out, I'll say by Monday, I will get out hopefully sooner, but at the very least by Monday, I'll get you a copy of the recording and the copy of the PowerPoint. We're also going to send out a survey just to try to get some feedback from you, because we believe we walk the talk and we believe in what we're suggesting. So we'd like your feedback on how this event went for you and what you got out of it. And other than that, Ruth, I'd say everyone have a great weekend, no matter where you are in the world. If anyone else has anything to add, we can stay on for a few minutes. And if Ruth, do you have anything you'd like to add in closing?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for coming along and sharing your wisdom, and do come along next week when we talk about mentoring. Have a lovely weekend.
Thanks.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye-bye.
It was absolutely fabulous presentation. I really loved it.
Thank you so much, Micah.
I really did. And I'm looking forward to speaking to you next week.
Brilliant.
Excellent. We're looking forward to having you, and hopefully we won't lose power and have 60-mile-per-hour winds.
Take care.
Paula, will you be coming to the conference in Madrid this year?
Unfortunately, I can't, because May 1st is my 25th wedding anniversary.
Oh.
So yeah, that's not going to happen this year. But I do go to Career Thought Leaders often, and I would love to be going to Madrid. We tried to work it out, but it was a little too much to try to do both, celebrate and go to the conference. So we're going to rough it and go to Greece later. So but no. So I'm sorry if you're going. I would have loved to meet you.
Yes, well, I'm organizing it. So.
Oh, you are? I did not know that. Okay. Well.
Yes, I'm CTL board member with Ruth. So I've been involved in the organization with Marie.
Excellent. Okay. Well, maybe I'll see you at a future CTL. I'm not sure if you've already decided where it will be in 3 years, because I know the rotation will be East Coast, West Coast, international.
Yes. Well, then I will see you next year.
And
very possibly, or the year after that, and the year after that.
Exactly. Excellent.
Thanks for your feedback, and thanks for being on the call today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paula. Well, have a great weekend.